Welcome to Project Ozone 2, Episode 4. I'm going to call this room Feature Complete. We still don't have netherrack or endstone set up. No big deal. But all the hammers are set up. While this is probably going to be another heavy logistics pipes episode, I am doing a few other things. This right here is hardly the epic mob farm that I was trying to go for. So the block back there is the grinder from Mine Factory Reloaded. Pretty cheap to make. Just have to get into alloying with Ender IO. And of course the chassis, which we've made a bunch of these already. And if you didn't know, always scroll through your recipes. This one is actually cheaper to make than this one because that requires so much redstone early game, plus all the power. I'll preface this by saying I didn't invent this, obviously. Way too smart for my blood. I think I saw it on the wiki for the logistics pipes. Alright, now this is super cool. Check out my wireless crafting terminal. Boom. Search for redstone. Look at all that redstone. That's wild, right? So you can request items. Let's go over it. So logistics pipes has these remote orderers, which if I go to the base one here, you can dye them. Very cheap to make, right? And then you got the pipe. Also very cheap to make. Lets you manually request items remotely. You can pull from any item source and you must right click a remote orderer on this pipe to link them. So let's say I want a redstone block. You request it. And what's going to happen is my drawer network on the other side of the room where my sieving setup is sends the redstone. Because remember, the drawer controller has a provider, so it can provide stuff, items. So it goes into this ender chest that's marked white, white, white. Notice this pouch is my backpack, but it's also how I receive items I request. And the reason I did this is kind of twofold. I use white, 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 the backpack, because I've routinely always lost backpacks. I just lose them. I don't know where they go. I lose all the items. So this way, the items always stay in the ender chest. No risk of losing them. And then I just don't want to carry 3 backpacks because I already have to have the remote orderer receiving, and then this guy is the sending. So let's say I'm doing stuff, and then I don't need this item anymore. I suppose if I look here, you see the redstone leaves, and since that drawer network has a polymorphic item sync, I talked about it last episode, but this guy here, it can accept items, and then this is the provider that lets you provide items. It's worth noting, since this redstone has a void upgrade, potentially if it was full and I sent items back to it, they would just get voided. You may have noticed I finished my compacting setup, and now I've got spares. I am rich with compactors. So let's say I wanted to ask for 4 of them. Look at that. Look at the items moving. It's making a compacting drawer from scratch, which if you remember from earlier episodes, it's quite costly. With this setup, the one thing I have to be careful of is if I use these furnaces for something else and it tries to push a recipe in and the items don't leave, because they only automatically get sucked out if it's a programmed recipe. If I was to do something, the items would just sit there. They wouldn't get returned to the network. I'm just realizing, since my storage system must not have this red alloy anywhere, it doesn't know to put it there, because the only reason it knows to put it in these chests is if there's already one in there, the polymorphic matches it, right? So I got to be careful right now that items are getting dropped. I think I mentioned it last episode with the basic logistics pipe. I don't want to put default route yes, that would fix my issue, but potentially because of my sieving and my hammering setup back there, it could send a ton of gravel, sand and dust. So I just don't want to do a default route. I want to make a place for everything. It'll just take some time. Oh, there's the straggler. Look at all these drawers. So my stairs burnt down. I thought treated wood didn't burn from lava, but apparently it does. And I'm lucky I didn't lose the whole building. But we've since switched to a white, white, white ender tank. Orange dye is kind of awkward to make right now for me, so it's a little cramped in here. But under my tree farm, I've got a lava setup kind of hidden away here. 12 crucibles on Eulorium, so I got the times 50 melting speed. It's hard to see, but underneath there's a drum, and then I have my ender tank right there. So the drum's a nice reserve of tons of lava. I'm so glad I made this smeltery that's dedicated just to making seared brick. I plan on going through tons and tons of lava, As you can see here, I've got quite a few smelteries. I think this is a pretty cool design. I'm kind of excited to share it. For demonstration, let's request a single gold block. You probably didn't see it, but something whipped down there. So it'll take a minute because my pipe network's getting bigger and bigger, but eventually it's going to show up. Only about 10 seconds or so. So apparently, compacting drawers don't do their thing. Demonstration over. Okay, so what's going on here? We have a logistics chassis 2 with an active supplier. If you remember, the active supplier isn't that costly. And these blank cards, very cheap, right? We got the active supplier, and I'm asking, I always wanted to keep 12 iron dust, iron sand, iron gravel. Then it sucks the iron out, turns it into blocks, boom, it's in a storage drawer. Now check this out. We got a provider logistics pipe. I believe these only move 16 items per request, which I didn't need to make a fancier one because 16 blocks of iron is lots. It's worth noting you can manage lava with logistics pipes, or fluids I should say, but I just didn't want to overwhelm the network. I figured if I'm using it this heavily, if I can keep my fluids on something else, especially trying to keep all of these furnaces fueled, I think the ender chests or the ender tanks are better, even though they're kind of expensive. And when I say kinda, I guess they're not expensive at all. I'm just thinking the blaze rods were awkward to get because of that iron spawner. Took me quite a while last episode to get it. So now if we search block in our remote terminal here, you can see we got the blocks. A lot of this stuff's just in my chest, but 1K and 148, that's these two drawers up here. And it doesn't really make sense for me to have a drawer controller, just to stick a provider on each chest for all these smelteries, for all of the common ores anyways. I'm not going to make a smeltery for alloys. I'm going to do alloys on demand, like your electrum and what's the other one? The Invar. So here's where the magic happens. Let's say I want iron ingots, because that's a much more useful block, right? Or crafting item. We got the table here. And it's configured to take a block, turn it into ingots, and that's done with this crafting logistics pipe. Again, I used the base one. I didn't use tier 2 or tier 3 because it can be slow. I'm not worried about speed at this point. And it costs diamonds. I don't have enough diamonds to do that. That's kind of the main reason, actually. We got our little chassis here. What I should do, actually, is request stuff. So we want to have 12 of those, 12 of those, 12 of those, 10, 12, 12, 12. So that's cool, right? As long as you're kind of planning ahead. What was I going to say? Well, that's not where I want that. I forgot I decided to move it in one. So put the basic here. Cool. Now I think it goes provider for the drawer, and then crafting for the crafting table. Crafting table. At this point, episode 4, what I'm learning in Project Ozone 2 Kappa is they clearly didn't gate logistics pipes. And I'm hoping it was intentional to encourage the player to build a huge network, or maybe it was just really unpopular and nobody bothered to, or maybe it was really taxing on the system. Maybe I'll find out, by episode 10, my system is crippled with lag. Who knows? I don't. Drawer. Block them. And configure the chassis. I guess I gotta get the recipes out, or the filters rather. Boom, 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 boom. So copper is first. Probably should set that on full. Sand, oops. Why is that not working? That was weird. And it's already sent them there. Again, since all of these things have a home, they're going to go to their homes. Unless they're full, then they get voided. But I can't stick them in here because these is already full. I think when I was clicking through there, Infinite literally just sends everything it can. So after this batch cooks, hopefully the right quantity's in there. If we go to this one, you'll see, okay, we got sand, we got dust, and then we got no gravel, which is, okay, gravel just got cooked. So boom, 72 copper ingots. Boom, look at that. We're getting tons and tons of metals. But these pipes here from Magnetic Craft are insanely cheap, so I'm going to keep using them. I don't know if there's a reason not to, but I don't have to worry about filters because I don't think these can filter. They're kind of just dumb. Take the copper out, stick it in there. Take the tin out, stick it in there. Cool. Now, if I do this, is it smart enough to know? Oh, it is. Oh, no way. You can change what you're getting? Well, I don't know if I ever noticed that. Okay, so most of my stuff's turning into this type, so I guess I'll keep using that type. I know older versions of Minecraft, the ore dictionary doesn't work as good. I guess, yeah, iron and gold, what am I thinking? Those are vanilla recipes. So that's the recipe I want. Very cool. And then don't forget to right click on this and import it so it knows. And then the same with this, I guess. There's only one type. Oh no, there's multiple, but let's stick with thermal foundation. And then import it. I know I said in episode 2, the Tinker Smelteries are going to work with the satellite, but not these Tinker Smelteries. The ones that do alloys and gears, like I'm going to automate gold gears and electrum gears, all that kind of stuff. That's where you'd use the satellite. And without going off on too much of a tangent, what would happen is your satellite would go here, and it's the thing that kind of pushes the items into the controller. But it's the crafting, where is it? The crafting pipes here that would go kind of under these things as your return, and then you push the stuff in through the satellite, it gets made, and then the crafting pipe gets it back, so then the system says recipe completed. I hope that made sense. If it didn't, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Let's ask for something more complicated, like 2 of these compactors, because I know I'll use them for sure. Maybe now if I look at this thing. Yeah, so it's trying to make pistons and it's trying to make these. Now, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be piling compound stuff in here, but it can't do anything with it. So it's just waiting. You can see those 2 purple things there. Yes, so it's waiting on these, but it doesn't really tell you where, I don't think. It'd be cool if you could double click on it and it would tell you, but you just kind of got to go around, look. And if we see these 2, we say, hey, you know what? We're waiting on pistons, it looks like. Even though these don't match the ghost images, it works. And then this guy down here, yeah, we're waiting for that red alloy. So that's cool. It's probably a good time to mention, hey, what's your organizational pattern for all the recipes you have coded? There isn't nothing. I'm literally just going to spam these walls, and then hope that I can just troubleshoot it like this, saying, hey, there's my problem. So if I take this out, is it going to be smart enough to start doing things, I hope? I don't know if there's a time limit, to be honest. And that's kind of disappointing, I would say, right? Oh no, that's what I requested, actually, as my first test. Duh. Hopefully now, the next ones are going to go. Yeah. Cool. It's probably going to spit stuff on the floor again. Any type of ingredient that gets made, and there's extras, and they have no home. That's okay. We're rich now. And I guess it's always good to verify. So if I was to ask for 50 of those. Yep. And then the tin. Well, that's disappointing. That's a lot of tin. Oh man. Let's just assume it works. There's no reason why it shouldn't. Oh, I gotta fix this. Classic, right? Oh, I'll fix that. I'll fix that later. Look at that iron golem. I made like 4 of those to protect me early on. They've just kind of wandered. I think 2 or 3 of them are actually in the nether. I cannot believe I forgot the most important step. The active supplier module. Request. Ooh, that hurts. Paper and gold. Really? No gold? 1, 2, 3. The breeding is going slow and steady. Mostly slow. The red alloy. So I actually requested one of them. 12 get made. So that means the other 11 are laying right here. There's probably a few ways to do this, and I'm not exactly sure what the best way even is. But if I was to do something like this temporarily as a demonstration, make sure to lock that. And if I did something like this, right? Let's get rid of those. Let's pretend we don't have any. And if again I request one of these, now when that stuff gets made, it looks like one got sent, and I'm going to assume there's 11 in here, and there is 11. So the advantages here is it's kind of organized, you lock it, and you should always kind of have space for a few things, and potentially if I was to use these 2x2 drawers, for a lot of those oddball items, I could have quite a lot. The downside is though, you know, using a bunch of drawers is pretty ugly, but I guess early game, you do what you got to do. And then now again, I can sort stuff because it has a home. So that's one option. I'm probably going to do that option. The other option is something that's kind of cool. I wonder if I can use this spot. Aha, nothing's there. So let's say I have an active supplier and I have a chest. What I could do is, where's my iron at? Do I seriously have no iron? I guess I'm holding it all, but if I do this, I can check. Okay, there's no iron. If I go here and I configure this thing, the active supply, again, the downside's going to be, I don't know what the difference is here. I guess if I just ask for 1, it'll have 9. Oops, that's hardly 1. So the downside is this filter can only have 9 items, but what's going to happen is it's going to try to put an ingot in there. So right now it took the block that's up at the smelteries, it downcrafted it to an ingot, and it's here. The advantage of having those set up is anytime you want to put something away, it should put it home, but it can't because I forgot to put the polymorphic upgrade on. If we stick that there, that's cool. So now this iron just got sucked out. Well, this episode is probably far longer than I thought it was going to be. One thing I forgot to mention too at the start of it is I actually drastically changed my recording settings and my audio settings. I think this is the first video that's going to be 60 FPS. I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if it makes sense. I don't even know if it's visible. I'm not an audio video guy.